2013
Chair? I'd like to make a motion that we deviate from the regular agenda to take up item 2013-028 and 2013-029, being that we have a huge crowd in the audience for those two.
Have a motion to deviate from Mr. Hogan and a second by Mr. Cochran. Please cast your vote. We have one vote pending, and that passes unanimously. We're moving to 2013-0208. Ready? 2013-0208, an ordinance directing the Parish Administration to expeditiously begin the process to fast-track the design and construction of replacement bulkhead and any other necessary related improvements in Des Allemands along Bayou Gauche between the Sunset Drainage District Levee and a point towards the north to identify during the design phase, and 2, a certifiable flood wall along the Badeaux Lane East with a floodgate crossing LA 306 with the flood wall trying into the SDD levee on each end. Mr. Hogan, I'm going to let you take this from here.
Thank you.
You're going to explain that one.
No problem. Number 3, a hump in Highway 90 with associated improvements in the immediate vicinity of the Parity Canal to elevate the Sunset Drainage District levee from just south of the highway to a point to be determined to the north adjacent to 631. And number 4, the raising of the crown of the Sunset Drainage District levee to the proposed base flood elevations or higher as may be needed, with these improvements being necessary to provide closure and flood protection to the district at an elevation at or above the proposed deferred base flood elevations in order to assist in the efforts to reduce the proposed base flood elevations, in addition to simultaneously reducing the risk of flooding to the district, with funding to be provided for out of the West Bank Hurricane Protection Fund 310. And with that, I'm sure she'll turn it over to me.
Yes, go ahead. That's why I turned it over to you to begin with.
Thank you. As this council and those in the West Bank are well aware, flood protection to the West Bank has been a priority of the Parish Administration and this council. With that being the case, the council and the administration has been working diligently toward this ultimate goal. The parish has been concentrating its effort toward providing protection to areas where the least protection exists, and rightfully so. Thanks to the remarkable effort of the Sunset Drainage District over its 100-year existence, those efforts have not been needed in the district, with the exception of temporary flood control measures at 2 locations in the district, which makes the district susceptible to flooding, and 1 location outside of the district under parish control, which makes the district susceptible to flooding. During this 100-year existence, with the exception of 14 years in which the parish subsidized the Sunset Drainage District to the tune of an average of $200,000 a year, the flood protection which the district has provided until 1996 involved no parish funds whatsoever. During this 75 to 80 year period, all of the remainder of the parish was able to benefit with their drainage improvements due to the drainage taxes collected for throughout the parish, including for use in the district not being needed in the district due to its residents being double taxed, and that second tax was all the district needed back then. At this point in time, these annual costs for 8,500 acres, which the parish does the same type of work the Sunset Drainage does, is about $8 million a year. The Sunset Drainage District takes care of 2,000 acres more than the parish and spends $400,000 a year. Thank God for the Sunset Drainage District, which has been a blessing to the communities of Des Allemands, Parity, and Bayou Gauche. And thank God for the Sunset Drainage District, which has been a blessing to all communities throughout the parish, due to the drainage funds not needed by the district being used to help build up their systems in their communities. Then FEMA came to town in March. They held 1 meeting and our world changed. Residents, primarily from the West Bank, walked out of that meeting in shock and in disbelief of what they had just been told. None were more so shocked than the residents in the Sunset Drainage District due to the low elevations of their home, which resulted in them being told of rates up to around $20,000 per year. In fact, those were on the low sides. Rates of $28,000 per year have been put out there for some, and some who don't know it yet will see rates in excess of $30,000 a year. Residents of Willowdale, Mimosa, and Booty area were also shocked to learn that their rates will rise to around $8,000 a year on average. Don't get me wrong, these numbers are unaffordable, to say the least. But these numbers have now changed the issue that we face from a flood protection issue to that plus a Save Our Homes issue. Yes, $8,000 a year is not affordable. But if things don't change, and there's no indication that it will, that is what it will be for the rest of the West Bank. Those residents will have to change their lifestyle in order to provide the cost of flood insurance until such time that the parish completes the levee system to a level that would provide a reduction to BFEs in these areas, which will result in lowering flood insurance costs. This, however, will take time. It will not happen before we have to adopt the base flood, the maps. For those in the Sunset Drainage District, they will not have the luxury of adjusting their lifestyles to pay for $28,000 or $30,000 a year of flood insurance until the parish system is complete. No adjustments can be made to make up that cost. They will lose their homes to foreclosure, and they will be financially devastated for the rest of their lives. The residents of the Sunset Drainage District are hoping for is for the BFEs to be able to be lowered so that they hopefully can get rates of $8,000 a year like the rest of the residents on the West Bank, such that they can hang on to their homes while the parish builds sufficient levees for the entire West Bank. With these three areas around the Sunset Drainage District, which need to be closed, negates the 13 miles of levee and several areas along the levee that are just below base. Let me start all over. With the three areas around the Sunset Drainage District, which negates the 13 miles of levee, and several areas along the levee that are just below base flood elevation, there is no chance at all that the base flood elevations will be lowered when the system is evaluated under the guidance which will be forthcoming on how to account for non-accredited levees. These three areas will act as weirs in the models and will result in the district still flooding as if the levees did not exist. The parish hired Dr. Joe Saheda to assist with modeling to hopefully lower base flood elevations on the entire West Bank. But there are no assurances that this will occur, and the parish needs to proceed along those lines. But even if Dr. Saheda is successful in lowering base flood elevations outside the Sunset Drainage District by a foot or so, the models are still going to show the district flooding due to the gaps. With such a reduction of the base flood of 1 foot in an area where rates are $28,000 a year, this would be of little benefit in saving one's homes when you still have to pay $23,000 a year. So as I stated earlier, the situation has changed. This has changed from a flood protection for all of the West Bank to a flood protection east of the Sunset Drainage District and a Save Our Homes issue within the Sunset Drainage District. And that is where we as a council and this administration needs to understand this and come to terms with this. The projects listed in the ordinance are simply those that are needed in order for the majority of the residents in the Zalmans, Parity, and Bayou Gauche to have a chance at all in saving their homes. This ordinance is presented on their behalf and at their request, following the desperate outcry received from multitudes of distraught residents throughout the district. To not have these projects implemented in a timely manner so as to assist Dr. Saheda in lowering the base flood elevations, we will be telling these communities and all of its residents that flood protection to those who will somehow be able to pay for flood insurance and not lose their home is more important in these three communities, and the residents who have no chance of being able to pay for flood insurance will be wiped out, losing everything that they've invested their time, money, and lives into, namely their home. In closing, I ask that my fellow council members approve this ordinance and that the administration begins the process to have these projects completed in a timely manner so as to affect the base flood elevations in the district while not slowing down the projects located toward the east.
Thank you, Paul. This is going to be a public hearing. We're going to hold the speak time to 3 minutes, very strictly enforced. You will hear at the end of when you hear this, that means your 3 minutes are up. We're asking you to wrap up your sentence. Be sure that there are several things that you probably want to speak on. Make sure it's the right ordinance that you're coming up for. If you would like to speak on this, please come up now and get in line so that we're not waiting, because it's going to be a long night and we want everybody to be able to say what they want to say. So please just start coming up now, and as you see people sitting down, go ahead and keep it going. I'm going to ask you to state your name and address for the record, even though we might know it.
I think you know it.
And your timing will begin after your name and address is spoken.
David
Go ahead.
Wedge, 307 2nd Street. As you can see, I brought a couple of my friends this time because I've been up here time after time after time telling you people, let's quit wasting money and get serious about levies. This is it, folks. You know, I've invested my life in this parish 28 years, and I care a lot about it. And to be quite honest with you, I don't have near as much at stake as they do. I own my properties. But I care about where I live. And I care about the people that live there. And that's what makes this area so unique. And I'm sure that's the same throughout this parish. Every area is unique like that. We're special people. And, you know, I think that this is an opportunity to make it right. When we hear Mr. Bowe talk tonight about all the stuff that he got from the Bayou Gauche meeting that he attended, that those of you that didn't attend should have. You would have known this already. We wouldn't have had to go through the presentation. He talked about the Sunset Levee District and the takeover of them. That started a long time ago when Mr. St. Pierre went behind the voters' back to Baton Rouge and lobbied so that the law would be changed so the parish could take that district over. Furthermore, when he talked about the equipment of the district, he's talking about the same $90,000 for 3 dump trucks. I have the email, Mr. VJ, don't look at me like that, that this parish says that they gave to the district. Let's get the facts out. Let's tell the people what's really happening here. It is important that we save this district. Think anybody's going to care about the park in Willowdale when all the people are gone? Think they're going to care about the libraries when all the people are gone? This happened to the West Bank this time. There's nothing in the law that says it can't happen to the East Bank next time. Nothing. Nothing stops that. We need to do the right thing, or, you know, I've watched many things happen in this parish. Probably the closest thing to this was a riverboat. Some of you may remember that. And we were divided by this river. We shouldn't be divided. We're a parish of plenty of waste in the last 6 years. Plenty of waste. Long before we had 3 people sitting behind the council chairman's desk, we had 1 and a tape measure. I mean a tape recorder. Long before we had parks in this parish and 7 dog catchers. Long before. We wasted money, and we knew doggone good and well we needed to build levees. My best recollection is 1988 when this started. And this parish stood by and watched this happen. And they turned a blind eye to the developments of Willowdale and Willow Ridge. They turned a blind eye to people building in the swamp and knew that it was an 18 inches of protection there. This council, not you folks, these chairs, turned a blind eye to that. They yielded to Rathborne land so that they could get their land included inside the levee alignment. That's what took it so long. You know that? No, I know that. Most of these people don't know that, but that's a fact. I know I'm long and I'm going to wrap up now. You know, I think you really need to think about what you're going to vote for tonight. This is the parish. One neighborhood will fall, the next neighborhood will fall, the next neighborhood, and the next one could be yours. Thank you.
Madam Chairman and council members, my name is
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to tell you, state your name and address.
my name is James Fish. I built my home to code 16 years ago and still reside at 104 Bayou Estates in Bayou Gauche. I've been a resident of St. Charles Parish over the 25 years by choice after moving here from out of state. I contemplated building or buying a home north of the lake, like a lot of people working in the industrial corridor of St. Charles Parish have done. But my heart told me to build in Bayou Gauche, a decision of which I'm very pleased until the recent concerns associated with FEMA and the NFIP. Like many others in this audience tonight, I've been an active member in the community through community recreational sports booster clubs and the volunteer fire service. I've been the fire chief for the Bayou Gauche community for the last 5 years. The reason that I volunteer is not really any different than the reason that you run for political office, or at least I hope it isn't. I volunteer to help out where others may not have the skills or the motivation. The main difference is that you are paid to make the decisions to protect the people of this parish. I'm here tonight to ask you to do just that. Make the right decision, help put a plan into motion that will fortify and build adequate levees to protect the communities that we dearly love. I will be forced to walk away from the structure in the community that I love and I call home if I'm required to pay the exorbitant insurance premiums that FEMA has quoted me. Please make the right decisions and prevent this tragedy from happening to myself and my family and many others like me. Thank you very much.
Hi, Catherine Porthouse, 113 Dixie Drive, Des Allemands. As you'll see, as president of the Bayou Gauche Citizen Action Committee, I've provided a resolution from our group representing the 3 areas of Parity, Des Allemands, and the Bayou Gauche. That resolution, we're asking that the parish go forward with these ordinances and direct that these projects get completed. Additionally, we're urging that we continue to have a consultant up in DC to represent us to try to reverse the effects of Biggert-Waters 2012. Additionally, we're asking that while there's other legislation such as the Worder Bill coming out, that we put St. Charles first and foremost and try to get projects associated and addressed under that new legislation. As a homeowner, wow, that's the first time I've seen our group up on a slide. I mean, your website, you have all 3 phases up there. There was nothing for us. It took us up here to kick and scream. We've been coming here for weeks now. We have watched as $400,000 goes towards a park named Rathborn, somebody who is going to slow down Willowdale's levee. We're watching as $660,000 goes to an equipment storage building for soccer balls. That's $1 million right there. There is money in the hurricane fund. This is not a single allocated fund to think that this is a finite, that our parish would not continue to contribute to this fund. We know that projects take time. Our community is not going to have that time. You talk about and say that in October you'll get us included in the master plan, and it has to go on to the state legislature for a vote. I'll be honest with you. We're in this predicament because, one, we trusted our federal legislators to sit up there and make laws, common sense laws. They failed us. We're in this situation because FEMA came out with bad maps. Maps that our parish, I'm sorry, Earl, I'm sorry, Sam, but you should have caught. You should have known about this federal mandate. There should have been a consultant like Dr. Joe in the beginning. That is not Earl and Sam's specialty. This has impacted our community. You're saying that you're going to go for the appeal at the end of 2013. The guidance hasn't been finalized. Dr. Joe has correspondence in January of 2013 where he says, should I use this information in this program? And the head of their science division comes back and says, no, because we don't know how it's done. Don't you dare give up an appeal until that has been decided. Don't say 2 or 3 years. Our community is not going to have that long. As for when they do finalize the science and these maps come out, it's going to devastate us. I can't, Snooki stood up in a meeting. I'm sorry, I should have said Council Schnicksnyder. Stood up in a meeting and said, who really knows what their maps, their premium's going to be? I know what mine's going to be. VJ, you took my home up as an example to DC, and y'all took it to the head of FEMA and said, what is her cost? My cost is $23,900 a year. This isn't right. We play by the rules. I bought it in the X. The federal government has failed me. I feel like my parish is failing me. I ask you, these are simple projects, 10 million, whatever. It's a drop in the bucket to effectuate the maps. Thank you.
My name is Ann Email Youngs, and I reside at 137 Pleasant Valley Drive in Bayou Gauche. I've been a resident there for 42 years. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to address you. As I'm sure most of you know, a home is probably the largest financial undertaking a person makes in their lifetime. Beside providing shelter and comfort, it gives an individual great personal satisfaction to know they are providing for and investing in their family's future. Now, because of something that we, the residents of St. Charles Parish, and especially the residents of Bayou Des Allemands and Paradis, did not initiate and cannot control, we face catastrophic uncertainty, financial ruin, and the possible loss of our homes. My question to each of you seated on the dais tonight is, will you allow this devastating emotional and financial destruction being conveyed upon us by an act of Congress to occur? Or will you vote to help rectify this untenable situation? You have the power to help us. Please do so by supporting this ordinance. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. President. I'm here tonight to urge you to support this ordinance. The grand
Sir,
plan.
I need your name and address.
I'm sorry, Clyde
okay.
McCulley from Paradis, Louisiana. I live on 324 Eula Street. The grand plan that was mentioned earlier is lovely, wonderful. I hope it goes through, but we are looking long term here. And like earlier when Paul mentioned, could be 5 years in the future at best. We need protection now. For Hurricane Isaac last year, I personally left my home and went on Highway 90 right at the intersection of there and Paradis Canal, right next to our new dollar store, and water was like within inches of coming around that levee because that levee drops down. We're talking about 3 measly little small places to fix for a minuscule amount of money to give us substantial more protection. We have a pretty significant levee within that 13 or 15 miles of levee, but we've got these 3 weak spots that need to be fixed. It can be done short term, immediately, and very cheaply compared to the $450 million we're talking about this grand plan. My mother was born and raised in this parish. She's 83 years old. She told me the other day, her and my dad are thinking of just walking away from the house and going to Arkansas because they can't afford the insurance. We need help, so I'm pleading with y'all to give us some support on this. Thank you.
Anne Marie Morvant, Bayou Estates South, Bayou Gauche. And basically, I'm not here to divide any of the parish. I have a sister in Mimosa. I support, y'all need to protect the entire West Bank. Okay, nobody should lose their home. We shouldn't even be in this predicament. This is insane that we are up here pleading for our homes that we went and purchased by the laws, by the rules. We did everything right. We're the working class people. Nothing was given to us. Now, the plan that was up on the screen looks fabulous, but I'm going to be quite honest, I don't have a lot of faith in anybody, because the way we found out about the meeting by FEMA was a post on the St. Charles Parish page. I feel that when you're telling residents in our area we're fixing to lose our homes, my policy is going to go up from $365 a year to over $20,000 a year, I should have done more than read a post on the Facebook page. Maybe that's my fault, but I think most people in here can say the same. I guess we were all under a rock. All I'm asking is that y'all please support this ordinance. At this point in time, this is our only hope to save our homes. And to be quite honest, I understand $8,000 is still a lot. That is a lot, but it can still be affordable while you're building the levee. It's going to take time, but at least you could swing it. You can't swing $23,000 in a flood policy. So what we have right now are our kids wondering, because clearly these children in this area know about it. I have a 10-year-old who wrote a 3-page report on what FEMA is doing to her house and Bayou Gauche becoming a ghost town. This is ridiculous. Y'all need to help us, y'all need to save us, and the entire St. Charles Parish West Bank needs to be saved. Not one area over the other. And I think next year when you go to do that budget, there should be not one penny sent to anything else except the West Bank levee protection. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Celestial A. Bear. Most people know me by Lynn. I live at 205 Matthew Drive in Des Allemands. I'm going to make this short and sweet. St. Charles Parish is my home. I lived on Gasson Road, Gasson Lane, in the little blue house that used to be Greg Champon's law office. My mom and daddy lived there until I was 8 years old. Then we moved to 4th Street. I don't know of any other parish where people look out for each other more than we do. Bayou Gauche is my home, okay? All of the West Bank of St. Charles Parish needs levee protection. But right now, Bayou Gauche has a levee that surrounds it from Parity all the way to Des Allemands. And we have some weak spots. It would be cheaper and financially sound to fix those spots instead of just letting it ride like it is. I can't pay $20,000 a year in flood insurance, just like everybody else. It's not fair that we were put in this position. And I know everybody finds it easy to tell Paul no, but you're not telling Paul no tonight if you vote no for this. You're telling the people out here that live in Des Allemands, Parity, and Bayou Gauche no. You're telling me no. I'm asking you, please, just upgrade our levee. Do the things that we're asking you to do. It's not him asking you personally. He is asking you through us. He is being our mouthpiece. This is our home. We don't want to leave. We love it here. We love our neighbors. We love our community. And we love our parish. And that's all I have to say.
My name is Jay Carroll. I live at 108 Bocage Drive in Luling, Louisiana. I hear all these people talking about levee protection. I don't have the luxury to say that I have basic levee protection that most have in the Sunset Drainage District. The parish began the West Bank Hurricane Levee Project over 20 years ago to provide those outside SSD with basic levee protection. $30 million to build the Willow Ridge levee and pumps for Willow Ridge and Ellerton Phase 3, right? $28 million in the levee fund. SSD&D wants to take $10 million for the projects, correct? $18 million won't finish the Willow Ridge levee, correct? How does taking $10 million of that do not take away from a levee that will in 5 years provide my neighborhood, which David Wedge said neighborhood will fall and one will fall and one will fall. Well, my neighborhood will fall. Boutique will fall. Mimosa Park will fall. So yes, neighborhoods will fall and we'll be the first ones to fall without levee protection. So why take away funding for projects that have already been approved and put the money in projects that still weren't even off the drawing board and still need to be co-approved, which may take years? Hasn't even been approved yet. That's going to take years. That's all I've got.
How y'all doing? I'm Rick Hogan. I live at 813 Barber Road in Paradise. Been there for 20 years. When we built our house, we followed all parish regulations and we did what we were supposed to do. Now we're to this point where we need to close these gaps in these levees, guys. You know, when people say they're going to leave their homes and just walk away or bankrupt, do y'all really know how bad it is? Do y'all really sit down and think what's going to happen to my house? Do y'all know what's going to happen? If anyone of y'all were in my shoes, this is what's going to happen. I can't afford approximately $23,000 a year for flood insurance. I'll live in my house for a couple of years. The bank's going to issue me a note telling me I want flood insurance. I'm going to say, Mr. Banker, no, you can't have it. I can't afford it. I'm going to pay you what I got. Well, Mr. Hogan, we're going to kick you out on the street. So my house goes to sheriff's sale. They'll get whatever they got. $240,000 house is now worth $67,000. Whoever buys my house gonna have to have cash. They ain't gonna afford their insurance premium if they don't pay cash. They kick me out of my house. I'm living on the street. My good credit that I have all these years are gone. I'm out on the street now with my family. Where I'm gonna live, I got no idea. Do I buy a trailer? Do I go rent from somebody? My credit's ruined. I can't survive. We need your help to close these gaps. Closing these gaps, I don't care if it brings the base flood elevation down 3 feet, 4 feet, anything in our district to bring those base flood elevations down is going to save us thousands. I feel for the people in Mimosa Park in these areas with the 8,000. I wish that's all we had to pay was 8,000. I would have to sacrifice, take my kids out of San Charles Borromeo, put them in public schools, do whatever I have to do to keep my house. I need to keep the value of my house and take care of my kids and my family, guys. I don't know what else to do. The other option in this thing is if I take everything I worked for my life for, all my savings, everything I have, cars that I don't need, toys that I don't need, throw it in a big pool of money. I'm still $38,000 short that the bank won't lend me. I have to come maybe to one of y'all guys up there. Can you lend me about $40,000 so I can keep my house? Then I'm sitting in a house behind a levee, cashless. Say one day the levees does fail. My house gets flooded. I'm living behind walls that I can't repair my house because I couldn't afford flood insurance, but I'm living in a house that I can't repair except from paycheck to paycheck. I'm 51 years old. I was looking at retiring at 62. The way I'm going now, I'll have to work till I die, till I physically die. What's going on here? If anything we can do to close these gaps and lower the base flood elevations can give me time so all this other stuff gets done and where I can keep my house and get my value of my house, I appreciate the support. Guys, this is bad. This is the worst dream I can imagine. It's like a horror story. You get crazy thoughts in your head. You want to do stupid things. It's that bad. I need your support.
Deborah Hogan, 813 Barber Road, Parody, for now. Unless what happens with what Rick says, I'll be on the street with him. Because it's till death do us part. I'm here for the same reason everybody else is to plead with you to vote to support this ordinance. We did build to regulations, requirements. We followed all of the rules 20 years ago. And we did no wrong. We actually went above that, thinking we give ourselves a little leeway. We're still going to be short if these new maps are approved with the new proposals. It's my understanding that Willowdale, our neighbors, are subjected to $8,000 for premiums. I also understand that their houses have not lost any value based on those new flood insurance premiums. The new flood insurance premiums make my home deficient. I lose all my value. I cannot sell it. I cannot refinance it. I'm stuck with a house that is worthless. Unless, like Rick says, we pay for it and then we are cashless until we die. That is not living the American dream. That is the American nightmare. So, like a famous NFL coach of New Orleans said to his players when he was disbanded last year, do your job. The reason this room is full tonight is because someone is not doing their job. So I plead with you, please do your job and support this ordinance. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Dufresne, and I'm at 114 Kiddo Street in Parity. And I would just like to urge you to go to yes for this ordinance, because we do need it. We are homeowners here in the parish, and of course I have little ones, and they see the stresses on our faces. You know, we have flood insurance, we pay our mortgage, we pay our other insurances, but then they see the stress, how are we going to afford these enormous rates? And then I hate to tell them that I'm going to lose my house because of FEMA, because that's the stresses they put on me. So whatever we can do within our district to help enforce and reinforce our levies, we would greatly appreciate. So please vote yes.
I'm Stacy Malonson, landowner at 146 Pleasant Valley Drive, currently homeless. We sold our house a year ago with hopes of building a new one in the Bayou Gauche area on Pleasant Valley. Well, we haven't drove a stake in the ground yet. We're scared to even invest another penny into a lot. Our kids don't know what their future holds. We rode to the North Shore, looked around, thought that might be where we wanted to be. It's not home. Bayou Gauche is home. It's where I grew up. I've been there 37 years. I don't want to leave. Leaving, you will take me out kicking and screaming. My husband is not here tonight because he is out coaching the SC All-Stars. We spent a week in Hattiesburg this past week cheering on the SC All-Stars, donning our purple, with purple and gold for the regular season, donning our orange and blue, chanting, who are we? SC. And SC needs to stand together and do what's right. I just want to be home. Homeless is not fun, and being on hold is not fun. We anticipating renting? That's not what we want to do. We've never rented in our lives. You think I want to do it at 36 years old after I've already started working here in industry? No. Please do what's right. Get us protected.
My name is Robert Taylor. I live at 104 Bayou Estate South. The last time I addressed this council, I stood before you and I asked you to say no to FEMA, to tell FEMA that what they were doing was wrong. Many of you came to my home, stood in my driveway, told me that you were going to do whatever it took to right this wrong. Listen to those people. It's time to put up or shut up. You need to vote yes. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Becky Cooper. I live at 131 Edna Drive in Des Allemands. You know, in past meetings, Mr. St. Pierre has said that, you know, what FEMA came in and did was an injustice, you know, to us with the fees. But actually, I'm glad they did. Because had they given us $1,000, $1,500 rates, people would have been upset, but you'd have went on. The only reason what's happening now is happening is because they gave us the ridiculous rates, and it got everybody on their feet and starting to call. I have no doubt in my heart and my head that those maps would have gone through had FEMA not given us those ridiculous rates. I'm gonna tell you something. I never thought I'd have to do this. I'm 38 years old. I had to research whether foreclosure or bankruptcy would hurt me. Which one would hurt me more? Which one's the easiest to do? I never thought I'd have to do that. We work, we pay our bills, we raise our kids to be good citizens. I never thought that I gotta make a decision between foreclosure and bankruptcy. Unreal. And just so you know, guys, in Louisiana, foreclosure's not good because they can take you home and they can sue you after for what they didn't get. Just so you know. We can't change past decisions. We can't go back. Can't do it. All we can ask you is that from here on out, make the right decisions. The whole West Bank needs protection. Make the right decisions from here on out for us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is David Chatham. I'm at 146 Pine Street, Bayou Gauche. I echo everyone's sentiments this evening. It is a dire situation. Most people will either foreclose or probably now bankrupt since they know the consequences. It is what it is. We have a parish that is, as a whole, in a situation. It's not good at all. As Mr. Bowe has explained, St. Charles Parish is at the forefront. People in D.C. know who we are. What's compounded the problem for us is that District 4 is the epicenter of the issue. We're not 8,000, we're 28,000. We have an opportunity now, today, to put funds aside, $10 million approximately, to do good, to lower our BFEs. Dr. Saheda has attested last week at our meeting that yes, these are definitely verifiable moves to lower the BFE. It's something that will have an effect on us. It will lower our BFE. We have to close our system. I ask you, please, vote for us. Thank you.
Paul Candies, the second, 801 down the Bayou Road. As a lifelong resident of Des Allemands and a business owner of 70+ years in Des Allemands, I ask for your support of this ordinance so that we continue to be a landowner and a business owner in this parish. Thank you.
Timothy Allen, Bayou Estates, Bayou Gauche. I just want to echo two things that Mr. Hogan brought up. If you're sitting there, council members, and you've already made your decision and you're patiently listening to all of us talk, I understand that. I probably would have done the same thing based on my constituents and what they had said before I got up there. I appreciate the Chief Operating Officer's presentation, very intelligent young man, well said, but I think in the reality is, like Paul said, it's just talk. There's no guarantee that that's going to go through, and even if it did on the best timeline, y'all know that's not going to go through like that. So if you're sitting there thinking you're going to vote no because of all the things that were shown that could happen, I would suggest to you that it's not going to work out like that. All right, that's just the reality of it. I've been in southern Louisiana 36 years, 34 in St. Charles Parish, Marine Corps veteran, Mr. St. Pierre, and we play by the rules, not trying to get around the rules. So at least Mr. Hogan has done something tangible. He's trying to get it done, and we would appreciate if you would support him on that. Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm Julian Bardell, 223 Shamrock Drive, Des Allemands, Louisiana. I used to live in Hornville. I moved from Hornville to Bayou Gauche. The reasons why, because they were the only areas that had levees that had pumps, and thought the parish and the Sunset Drainage Board would maintain the levees and do their job right. Everybody. And after I built my home, I done a little research on the levees, and I said, Lord, I better go to the Sunset Drainage Board meetings. They ain't got much levees in certain areas. So I went to the meetings, and they scraped up the dirt out the ditches they dug and put them on the levees and built the levees a little bit, okay? And the parish, I thought the parish would help them with some money. Parish really never did until they got really in a bind. I went to the meetings at the Sunset Drainage Board and asked why we can't get money from the federal government or somewhere to help us with our levees like everybody else. And they said they had to abolish the board to do this. And this was 30 years ago. And still today, I'm fighting for the same levees, and I'm tired of going to meetings. I mean, it's time for action. It's time for this parish to step up to the plate and people to do their jobs. In 30 years, if they had done it 30 years ago, they'd have the levees back there. No, they drug their feet. Nobody done their job like they should have, and that's why we're here tonight. And I knew this was coming, because the erosion was there. Every year you get erosion, it's going to get worse. Now we're talking about a high water levee. We're not talking about a hurricane protection levee right now, right? Can anybody answer that question? On the elevation we're talking about making the levees right now, is that a hurricane protection or high water levee? It's a high water levee. That's not a hurricane protection levee. If you're going to put a hurricane protection levee, you're going to need a levee like you got along the river right here. Well, I can't believe y'all don't know that. You know, y'all fooling with this. You know, y'all need to do some research on this. Thank y'all.
I'm Kimberly Mongrue. I live at 136 Pine Street in Bayou Gauche. I have lived there 36 years. My parents have lived there 50 years. This is my home. And if there are things that we can do to protect our home, we need to do it now. If it's small pieces, we need to fix them. I lived in Mimosa for 3 years. I came back to Bayou Gauche. I have 4 brothers. We all live in Bayou Gauche except one that lives in Willowdale. I want them to be protected. They're my family. I have friends and family everywhere. I know you guys will do the right thing. I just think that when there are projects that can be done right now, they need to be done. Things that get extended into 3 and 5 years, great. We have plans, we have designs, but if there are things that can be fixed immediately, we need to fix them. I cannot afford $30,000 in flood insurance. I'm going to lose my home. I have had it for 10 years. I play by all the rules. I work hard. I pay extra, and now it's for nothing. So either I foreclose or I file bankruptcy. I beg you to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Corey Savoy, 301 Maryland Drive, Mimosa Park. Lifelong resident of Mimosa Park. A lot of people in this room know me. Y'all, you know, I've been friends with a lot of y'all for years. I'm not a very emotional person. I'm not going to come up here and give an emotional plea either way. I'm not going to say vote yes. I'm not going to say vote no. I'm just going to ask that we make sure that if something like this were to be done, that we don't just blow a whole lot of money and not have any effect from it. You know, the hump on Highway 90, do we even know that the state will even allow that? I was very respectful when everybody else was speaking. I would appreciate the same. I wasn't asking y'all. Anyway, the railroad track as a northern border to close it in. I've dealt with the railroad. I don't know if they would allow you to close the culverts there. We have in the past for emergency purposes. During storms, we have closed that in. But that is for emergency purposes only. I think we've all seen the effect that water has, the pressure, the intense pounds per square foot pressure that water has when it is just sitting up against a levee. 17th Street Canal, we saw it. That levee was designed for hurricane protection, not a railroad track. It was designed for flood control, excuse me. But it was designed for that, and it could not handle the pressure of that water sitting up against it. So I'm just asking that you look at the facts and make sure that we're not just going to keep up the hopes of these people. I mean, what would happen if we spend all this money, everybody's thinking, okay, we're going to get a big break in our flood insurance, and then the state or the railroad or even the Fed says, you know, you spend all this money, but it's not going to lower anything. We're going to keep it the way it is. I would just hate to see, as impassioned as the pleas are, I would hate to see even more disappointment, because that would just be another dagger in the heart of everybody. Like I said, I'm from Mimosa. I was born and raised there. But I love my neighbors in Bayou Gauche. I do. And it breaks my heart when I hear the cries and the pleas, but I base everything on facts, and that's all I want y'all to have. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Prendergast. I live at 623 Willardale Boulevard. All West Bank residents want the same thing: adequate hurricane flood protection and reasonable flood insurance rates. No one wants anyone to lose their homes. I have no problems repairing weak links in the Sunset Drainage District Levee, but not with this ordinance. I ask you to vote tonight no, because I want you to look at the facts and look at the questions that are raised. I have questions regarding the costs as stated, the specific costs stated in the detailed ordinance. It implies that the Willow Ridge levy is $9 million, stating that the West Bank Levy Fund has a balance of $27 million and that there will be $18 million after deducting the projected costs to construct Willow Ridge. The ordinance doesn't say phase 1. At the Willow Ridge Town Hall meeting, Mr. Sam said that the Willow Ridge levy will cost $29 million, not $9 million. An official there said the Ellington levy and pump will cost $62 million. So that's more than $27 million we even have in our fund. Was this administration contacted before this ordinance was put before us? How can anyone say taking $10 million from this fund will not take away money from Willow Ridge and Ellington? I have questions regarding the projects in this ordinance that involve the railroad, the Des Allemands Bridge embankment, and the Hump and Highway 90 Parity Canal, as well as the cost of the 4 that's projected to be $10 million. Steve Wilson of the Pontchartrain Levee District that the parish is using, in a video that's online, the Debunking Rumors video, states his experience with the East Bank levee says that railroads and highways cannot be used. And he said in that one video that one floodgate alone on the East Bank costs $7 million. In addition, the Federal Highway Administration issued a memorandum to state DOTDs in 2008, and it was updated in 2011, that says highway embankments cannot be used as levees. Was the administration, again, and parish consultants contacted to discuss the technical aspects of these projects or the costs involved? If one floodgate alone could cost $7 million several years ago on the East Bank, how can all 4 projects, one of which is a floodgate, can truly only cost $10 million? How can we expect to get regulatory approval to use these highways as levees if the Federal Highway Administration says it can't be done? And let me tell you, I live in Willow Ridge. I've been fighting Rathbone since I moved there. This parish has already wasted a lot of money and a lot of time pushing for a levy that regulators said it could not do. Let's not make that same mistake here. And if the intent of this ordinance, as it says, and I understand getting it done quickly, but if the intent is to fast track, to make quick fixes, why weren't we working with Parish Public Works? And why aren't we working with the company, the consultants that would be taking them from after the vote tonight? The facts are this ordinance should not be voted into law, not as is. There's just too many discrepancies. We have every one of us in this room has criticized the U.S. Congress for voting through Biggert-Waters, saying that they didn't understand the facts. Let's not make the same mistake here. All West Bank residents, all of us, from Bayou Gauche to Willow Ridge, all of us, we deserve to save our homes. We want to save our homes, saving them from flood rates and from hurricane surge protection. Y'all are complaining about 5 years? I'm going to have 5 years before I'm even at 7 feet, which the Sunset Drainage District had for 20 years. People outside of Sunset just deserve to save their homes, just like the people outside of Sunset Drainage District. We did the right things. We volunteered the community as well. We just want the same thing and the same level of levy that the folks in Bayou Gauche have. Please vote no. Thank you.
We're still in public hearing. If you're wishing to speak on this ordinance, please come up and do so now. We're winding it up, it looks like.
Avery Baudouin, 104 Michael Drive, Bayou Gauche. simply want to ask for your support with this ordinance. I think it sounds like the sensible thing to do for the amount of money. We already have levees with a few weak spots. To me, it seems like even if it doesn't do anything other than to obstruct the flow of water with these models, I think if we fix these spots, it'll probably make a drastic difference in the results of those models. And if that's the only benefit, to me, it'd probably be worth the money to spend. We're not used to asking for help. We're used to doing things for ourselves. At this time, we need help. And we appreciate whatever support. And any of you who has supported this, thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Greg Ferguson. I live at 125 Pine Street in Bayou Gauche. One of the people here was talking about you can't use railroad embankments as levees, and one of the things that I talked with the FEMA person here on the March 25th meeting was about that. And the one reason they said is, well, you can't be sure there's going to be maintenance done on it. Now, we know that maintenance will be done on the levee. You can use them as part of your levee system. The railroads don't like it. We do know that from talking with Councilman Hogan, there's ways that we can attach to high points near the levee, near the railroad, where we will not be attaching directly to the railroad embankment. That can be done. We have been paying taxes in the Sunset Drainage District for flood protection. We've been paying it to the parish, and the parish has been using that money all over the parish. But they haven't really been using it in Bayou Gauche area, the Sunset Drainage District area, except since 1996, I believe is the year that they did start providing some funding there. Now, the last 2 years, we haven't had any funding from the parish, is my understanding, yet we're still paying taxes for that. We also pay a separate tax, if you want to call it that, for the Sunset Drainage District. So we paid for our own improvements. We spent a lot of our own money on that, not from the parish, but from us. We're asking for your help now to finish this and allow us to close this in. I do believe from talking to the FEMA people, the FEMA engineers, that this will have some success with them. I am a civil engineer. I've built 3 dams. I've worked on levees. I've done a lot of soils work, including a lot of flooding work. And I do believe that we can be successful on this, especially with Dr. Saheda's help. I'd like to thank him also, because talking to him, he sounds like someone that could not help just Sunset Drainage, but all of St. Charles Parish, for that matter, all of southern Louisiana. So thank you. That's all I have.
Priscilla Berger, South Bayou Estates. I just want to ditto his last comments. I was coming up. We hired a professional. That's all that needs to be said. Willowdale, Luling, stop with the division. You know, we're all one. Thank you.
My name is Fred Sinclair. I live on 113 Dixie Drive in Bayou Gauche. I've been here, we've owned a house there for 3 years, and obviously this came about months ago. But I've just started a job in Gretna, and I drive to Gretna down to Palco every day, and I see bulkheads and stuff going around light poles, and it's just like crazy levees and stuff. And I look at it, and I'm thinking to myself, if they can do something like that, that's just jagging it here and there. I mean, we're talking about some dirt. You know, I don't understand why this is such a difficult thing to figure out. These are the people of your parish here. These are people of your community, and you're going to put them in fright and scare them to death, and not support them through this and figure it out. I mean, there's 11 of you, 12 of you up there. Somebody's got to have some answers. Somebody's got to make something happen. I mean, this is awful to do to people, especially when you're there supporting them. You know, you're freaking people out. You're scaring me. I'm shaking right now. I don't want to be up here talking to you. I really don't. I want to be improving my home, but I can't do that because it ain't worth nothing. I mean, that's not fair to people. I really hope you guys make the right choice and you figure it out for your parish. Thank you.
last call for public hearing on ordinance number 2013-0208. Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Council discussion, Ms. Perrier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to hear from the administration before the council gets to discussion. Mr. Sam, maybe?
That's it, huh? Okay, before we get started tonight, I would just like to say that I've lived in the Sunset Drainage District for 34 years. I've lived in that area. The Sunset Drainage District has done an outstanding job protecting my home those 34 years. My daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandchildren live across the street. They've been there for 8 years. So I understand the outcry and the concerns that people have, because I have the same issues with my home and my daughter has the same issues with her home. But as I listen and as I look, I still have to face the reality of what's there. We've been studying this levee system for 5.5 years now. And I think what we have tonight, Mike Chopin with Bert Klein-Peters here tonight, and Lucas Lilly with GCR is here tonight. And one of the issues that we have with the ordinance as it's written is that we don't understand where the cost estimate came from. The other night at the town hall meeting, Mr. Councilman Hogan used a factored number of the Lafourche sheet pile wall that's being built, and he used the number of $7.5 million. $7.5 million for that one wall is a major portion of the $10 million that's being discussed and allocated in this particular ordinance. So what I'd like to do tonight is just go down through the ordinance, and Mike Chopin is going to come up and clarify this, and so is Lucas Lilly. But I just want to share some thoughts with you. This particular ordinance is broken down into 4 different sections. The Bayou Des Allemands bulkhead is to replace the bulkhead and construct a +7 sheet pile wall. Tie into LA 631 or at the Northern Railroad. And I just want to say, as you look at the picture on the lower right-hand side, you'll see the tunnel area that's there. And I want to say about being able to tie to this, we made every effort to tie what we call the northern gate on the Parody Canal. We made every effort to contact the railroad and try to permit tie points on that particular gate structure. It was unsuccessful. Received letters back from Burlington Northern denying us any opportunity to tie to that railroad, which was on the Parody Canal. All I can say is on this particular one, we believe that there'll be extensive permitting time required, and I'll show you as we go to future slides why. There will also be issues of loss of view and access to the bayou for the general public. There's approximately 14 docks on that particular area. The sheet pile wall will stick up approximately 4 feet above the existing road height. The engineering firm has put an estimated cost of this as $8.3 million. On Badeaux Lane, the ordinance calls to construct a +9 certifiable flood wall along the north side of Badeaux Lane East. Just to let you know that Shaw Coastal, who's the engineering firm that's working with CPRA and with the Lafourche Basin Levee District, is looking at this particular alignment, and they're calling for elevation 12.5 at this particular point. So, what they're looking at is a 1% levee system, and they're calling for elevation 12.5. So anything that we put there that's certifiable, the question has to be understood is elevation 9 going to meet the 12.5 requirement that the Lafourche Basin Levee District and CPRA is looking at, and Shaw Coastal is doing the engineering on that. It goes on, it talks about construct a floodgate across LA 306. 306 is a DOTD highway. It has to meet the requirements for DOTD. Shaw Coastal is actually looking at putting a hump there and actually moving the levee alignment in order to gain access back and forth over that, so people can actually go in and out to that particular area just prior and after the storm event. Whereas if you put a gate there, you totally isolate it and block it off. And so that's the concept that Shaw Coastal's looking at. The coastal frontal protection for the Bayou Gauche pump station, we did the base elevation of the top of that pump station is elevation 9. The pump discharge lines are at center line elevation 7. They start to backflow at approximately elevation 5. So then there are no flapper gates or any type of butterfly valves in those particular lines. So at that particular point, either we have to build some type of a T-wall across the front, which is what it's called for under the state plan that Shaw Coastal is looking for, or at bare minimum we have to go back and look at some way to stop the backflow through those 3 discharge lines. And back during Katrina, that was some of the major issues over in Orleans and Jefferson, was with the pumps flowing backwards. There's limited right-of-way along Badeaux Lane. Now this cost estimate here that Bert Kleinpeter put together is including a T-wall across the front. When Mike comes up to speak to answer questions, if you want him to, he can tell you what this would reduce by if we're only able to go in and put some type of isolation valves on the discharge of the pumps. US Highway 90 is to construct a +7 hump in Highway 90 at the Parody Canal. I spoke with Mike Sack today. The $600,000 estimate does not include any rework of what to do with the Dollar General that's there, nor does it address what to do with Early Street on the other side. It's strictly the hump in the highway itself. Improve the Sunset Drainage District Levee north on Early Street and south to Highway 90. Highway 90 doesn't seem to be an issue as far as right-of-way or property on the south side, but on the Early Street side going towards 631, there are issues approximately with 3 homes along that area and the right-of-way that would be required to raise the levee along that section. And then there's the traffic concerns with Early Street and the Dollar General. And then when you get to from Highway 90, as you go towards the embankment over towards toward the railroad, the issue is with Old Spanish Trail on 631, and the issue of, again, to the length of time to try and tie into the railroad and what type of agreements would be able to be made between the Burlington Northern to tie into that particular embankment. Crowning the Sunset Levee District levee, since the raise the levee portion is lower than the proposed BFEs and the D firms, the levee heights would be most likely be somewhere between +7 to +9. There are issues too with engineering relative to the slopes of the levee and issues around the heights that would be required to raise to, as far as the basic stability of the levee. Again, the estimated cost for this is $12 million. These particular slides that are here, I just put them up here. The cost that we see here, adding all these together, we're looking at this ordinance as it is written, with Bert Kleinpeter's input and with the input from GCR, at approximately $35 to $40 million, depending on the different options that are there. These particular slides, it's in the handouts that you have, it shows the different permits that are required. If you look at the permit for the permit requirements for Des Allemands, we're looking at 10 different permits that have to be required. The estimated time to require all 10 of these permits is in the area of 2 years. And one of the issues that we have there, it's a scenic waterway. There will be numerous reports and numerous surveys that will have to be generated because of it being a scenic waterway. Again, too, this is the Badeaux Lane. These are the issues with permits that are there. There's 4 basic permits that are required for Badeaux Lane, and depending on how we approach the pump station, the permitting may or may not be as intense as anticipated, as far as being able to put some type of butterfly valves on the pumps versus building a T-wall at this time. The issues along Highway 90, again, is the number of permits that are required, and the issues of right-of-way, especially between on Early Street going towards Highway 9, towards the old highway on 631. The issues that are concerned around the raising of the levee is especially along Grand Bayou. There's approximately 60 residential homes or areas or landowners that will be impacted with eventually what's going to happen with raising the level of the levee along Grand Bayou. One of the real issues that we have is how can we go up and raise the levee 2 to 3 feet without changing the slope of the levee and without impacting the homes and the right-of-ways that goes down towards, with so many of the homes being up against the toe of the levee. And these are the slides that I wanted you all to see. There is a basic, I think, disconnect between the cost estimate that Mr. Hogan is using in his ordinance versus what Burt Kleinpeter feels that the cost may be. I don't know if Mr. Hogan has any breakdown or cost estimates that he can share with Burt Kleinpeter, but this is their opinion of what it is. I suggest that maybe if y'all have any additional questions, that maybe Mike Chopin can come forward and Lucas Lilly can come forward and answer them in greater detail. I appreciate it.
Ms. Fletcher?
Yes, actually my question is for Dr. Sahada.
Yes.
Hi. Real quick. Can you tell us without any doubt right now, that if we did these projects, that the BFEs would be lowered? Without a doubt, right now.
Well, we're not at a point where we can reach any conclusions about how the DFIRM appeal is going to come out, what our revision of the base flood elevations will be, because that will affect the design. And then there are a couple of elements referred to in the ordinance that will require, I think, kind of a new approach and a new decision on the part of FEMA. Not that they couldn't or wouldn't do that, but haven't done that in the past. I tried to find an example in the state where, for example, the railroad embankment was the only flood protection for that reach, a reach being a section where the water is blocked from moving. New Orleans East has a railroad embankment in front of a levee, and the Corps has credited that railroad embankment for reducing the waves before it gets to the levee. So the levee can be designed a little bit differently than it would be if the railroad embankment wasn't there. So that's been done by the Corps as part of the levee that they certified. We're not exactly asking for that. What we'd be asking for in this situation, which FEMA may approve, but I don't have any example that I can point to where they have, that a railroad embankment is in fact the sole flood protection. So as of today, I think from the standpoint of not having the new information as to what the new BFE is going to be, which could change some of the costs that Sam referred to, nor right now approval on the part of FEMA, I would say it's premature to say that we've got a thing that's a guaranteed success. I think we can make a very good case. I expect to see the BFE to change. There are precedents for FEMA treating things in an innovative way. But that's not to say that they've done that or even looked at the particulars of what's in this ordinance.
So we should wait for the analysis to come back in the next couple of months?
Well, that would be my role in this whole thing, is to make sure that whatever decision you make and any plans that you have for the future, that it be based upon updated information. And then second, add to the engineers and the parish officials' appeal to FEMA to give as much credit as we can to these features that are on the ground that do reduce the flooding and have an impact on the flooding, but because of a terminology issue, they've in the past not allowed it to happen. So the final step is we get the new BFEs, we go back to them with a plan, whatever elements it has in it, and get a prior approval that we're on the right track with probably some adjustments. And then I think I've done my job to set up at that point, y'all can make a decision about committing money that would have more confidence to it than perhaps at this point we can have.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chopin, can you come up? I just want to make sure that I'm under the understanding. This ordinance 2013-0208, this put together, is this what you're saying actually costs to put that in? If we say yes to this, you're saying this is the actual cost of it, not 10 million?
Right. Basically what we did is, at the request of administration, we took a look at the ordinance as written and the various projects that are identified in it. Then we took those projects based upon both the current bid price that we have on the Lafourche. The bulkhead was similarly done on the Lafourche side of Bayou Des Allemands, and it was bid, and that price came out to be about $2,800 a linear foot. When you prorate that to the linear footage that we're talking about for the bulkhead that's in the ordinance, that prorates out to about 7.5 million. We do show 8.3 in there because we had an additional 10% because we are going a little bit higher than what they did on the Lafourche side. So that's based on the physical bid numbers of that project, the exact same bulkhead built on the other bank of the bayou. The second project, being the flood wall, what we did is we took the state's attributes. Those are the attributes that they're requiring that the Lafourche Basin Levee District look at as far as what the size of that wall needs to be, the thickness of the wall, the pile foundation, and so forth. And we applied those and took current bid prices that we have on those various type of projects and applied it to that linear footage. That linear footage came out to be about 825 feet. And those walls are going for about 20,000. Now again, we looked at it for the elevation 9 as stipulated in the ordinance. We didn't go up to the 12.5 that the state's making us look at, but that's something you will have to consider, that if this thing goes into the state master plan, they're probably going to require that these walls be built to 12.5. Okay, and then the hump in Highway 90, that was just a matter of looking at what elevation we would need to raise the road up to and seeing how far that would stretch, given the line of sight requirements and the vertical curves that you need to make that accomplished, and that's how we arrived at the $600,000 associated with that project. The final project is a wide open project. It's basically looking at what would it take to bring the levee up to the elevations. Now, I do not have a current survey on that levee. I could only look at a few things and came up with an average of 2 foot of fill on top of the levee. And when you take that 2 foot of fill average across the length of that levee, that's how we arrive at the 12 million. I guess the point here is that when I do that analysis, I'm at 39.4 million. And I know we can sit here and argue, is it 1 foot of fill on top of that levee? Is it 2 foot of fill on top of the levee? The problem is we don't know what the attributes of these projects need to be at. And I echo what Dr. Saheda said, is that I really think that you need to get these models that he's getting. He's still gathering data. You need to get that data in hand. You need to take a look at that data. Then you need to see, okay, he's going to have the modeling capability at that point to say, let me put these features in, let me see what type of effects they do have. Then take those effects, run the FEMA, and get their buy-off before you proceed with setting a price tag and moving forward with this type of project.
So the second part of my question is, if you're saying this is going to cost 39, where did Paul get his numbers? And if Paul's numbers are legit, if we do it the way he says for 10 million, I don't know how, will it fix anything? Because will it be considered, I know a lot of times when we get grants, it has to be core certified and things like that. Whatever we do, if we can do it the way Paul says to do it, does it count for anything? Is it going to help? Is it really going to help us with the FEMA maps?
Well, that's where the modeling comes in. Again, I can't back up the $10 million. I don't have any information as to how that number was arrived. But what I can tell you is that it's really going to take the buy-in of FEMA to decide whatever we do to get the benefit for it. If you follow me, when we talk about levee certification, we're talking about something different than what Dr. Said is talking about when he's looking at models. He's looking at things that can help slow water down. He's not looking so much at certification. If we start talking about levee certification, right, that's right. I fully understand that. I'm just letting this council clearly understand what we're talking about here is, for lack of a better word, speed bumps. Things that slow the water down, things that knock the water out. There's a lot of things that I think that you're going to be able to see that FEMA's missed. We've talked about it. You've got wetlands out in front of a lot of these areas. When the Corps of Engineers did their analysis for Donaldsonville to the Gulf, they were coming up with levees at 12.5, but that was because they were looking at the base flood elevations and then saying, okay, I got wave run-up. We all know that with all those trees out in front, that you really can't get that type of wave run-up. But what the Corps is going to tell you is that, but I can't guarantee that you're always going to have those wetlands out in front of those levees. But what you do have is, with the certification process, every 10 years you need to go verify. So if you're losing the wetlands in 10 years, you're going to reanalyze and see what you need to do again to your levees to bring them back up to certification. Again, we're not talking about a certification here. We're talking about what it would take to get FEMA's buy-in in the modeling process to see what type of benefit you get from these projects. And until you get to that point, I couldn't tell you what the benefits would be.
Thank you. Ms. Scheck-Snyder?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Sam, I have a question. You're bringing this up tonight, and we were just handed this just before you started talking, and I'm not disputing any of your work or anything, but I guess my question is, did you talk to any other councilman about this? Did you get with any other councilman on this? Did you bring, or was it just, this was in speaking, y'all getting together with the administration and deciding that all of these figures, because if this is all right, then it should have been brought to us before this ordinance even came up.
About 8 to 10 weeks ago, it was brought to my attention that there was a Facebook article saying that it was $10 million to raise to fill the gaps and stuff in Bayou Gauche. I contacted Mr. Hogan. I asked him, where did that number come from? And he told me I didn't give him that number. Well, tonight, the number in this ordinance is, that is true, Paul. That is true.
Paul, wait for your turn.
That is true. So, I don't know where that number came from that was on Facebook, and I don't know where the number came from tonight. There was no communication with us, with the administration, or myself, or anything about the numbers that are here. So there is no communication. The administration knew that I was working on these numbers. I had councilmen ask me, do you agree with these numbers? And I told them we are working on numbers. And that's what we're doing. We were working on numbers.
Did you meet with some councilmen on this issue?
I spoke by phone when they called me.
Because I didn't know anything about it, and what Mr. Hogan sent me, I think it was from 208, and bear with me, I'm under, it was listed where he got his numbers from, even though they were back from a few years ago, I think, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong, that it listed each one where he got the estimates from, okay? And to me, if this was an issue, you needed to get up and come get together with us and tell us, well, let's try to find out if his was right or yours was right, because now I'm sitting here going, okay, so who do you listen to?
I found out about this when I read the ordinance book. That's when I found out about the ordinance and the cost numbers. Nobody spoke to me or contacted me about the $10 million.
Well, yeah, because we had the town hall meeting, and
I wasn't asked to speak at the town hall.
Okay, we need to keep, if y'all could just keep it down, or we're gonna have to get.
I wasn't asked to speak at the town hall. And at the time of the town hall, we were still looking at the numbers.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. I'm still going to support this ordinance for the fact that, from what I was told, from the information that I got through Mr. Hogan, and I see what these people are up here fighting for, and I'll probably be fighting for the same thing, for the fear of, I hadn't been even going to get my rates yet, for the fear of finding out what they are, because I know I'm way below the BFF. So I'm going to still be in support of this and try to help these people. And I feel like anything we can do, nobody said we're going to go out tomorrow We're gonna write a check, and we're gonna start doing this tomorrow. But at least it's a start. At least it's something to begin somewhere to help everybody all over the parish. And I don't know who sent out some false information in this parish, but I got a call from a man who was adamant that somebody sent him some information that we were taking money from one to give to the other. The thing is, it's the West Bank levees, not the West Bank levee in just Willowdale or wherever. It's the whole parish. The parish, somehow, somebody's getting out there and they're trying to split up the parish. Okay? I feel like if we can start on Willowdale on this end and we're starting on Sunset Drainage District on the other end, we are doing wonderful. And we meet in the middle. And you're helping everybody with a little bit at a time. It might not be everything all at once, but it's getting done. The permits are going for Willow Ridge. There's no money, to my knowledge, unless y'all know something that I wasn't told, that money's going to be taken from one to the next. But if this was this much, we should have been brought in individually before this ordinance, and you should have told us all of this. Somebody should have. I don't know who to blame, but somebody should have told us about all this. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman.
We started working on the numbers. Bert Klein Peter and Lucas and I started working on the numbers when I first saw the ordinance that was read. That was the first contact that was made to me. So we started working on the numbers.
When do you get your agenda? On a Wednesday when we get ours?
Typically, like this particular agenda here, I got it on Friday. So I got it Friday 2 weeks ago. And then we started working on the numbers after that. It takes time to put the numbers together. Started working on them. And these are the numbers that we have here tonight. I got the same input here that anybody else had relative to. There was no communication from Mr. Hogan to me, other than him stopping by my home to talk to me. And he stopped by my home to talk to me about the railroad, and that I should not speak to people, tell people that the railroad has trestles and hose in it. You know, he stopped by my house and told me that, and my answer to him was, I'm gonna do the best I can to tell the truth to people. And the bottom line is the railroad has trestles and hose in it. And I'm just telling the truth, and that's all I've tried to do in any of this is tell the truth.
I know, I'm not saying you're not telling the truth.
Well,
what I'm saying is somebody dropped the ball when informing the council of everything we needed to know.
What I think should have happened is when these numbers were put together, I think somebody should have taken the time to come talk to me about it. I spent an hour and a half in my office with David Wedge. At no time did David ever come back to me and say, look at what we're doing here, and this is how we're designing this. Paul never called me or talked, Mr. Hogan never called me or talked to me and said, this is what I think the numbers ought to be. He never made one phone call to me. There was no phone calls to me. The only phone calls that were to me were councilmen asked me, do you think these numbers is a valid number? There was no phone calls, no inquiries.
Mr. Hogan?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A lot to cover there. You're right, Sam. There are holes under the railroad track. There are trestles under the railroad tracks. There are culverts under the railroad tracks. And ain't a whole lot we can do about it, right?
Not to know of as far as permits from the railroad.
You're absolutely correct, except not within the Sunset Drainage District. Sunset Drainage District, the railroad that passes through it, does not have a single culvert, does not have a single trestle, and I'm tired of you telling people that it does.
It's got a tunnel.
You need to go take a ride. You need to go look and see where your trestles and your culverts are.
It's got a
Get
tunnel.
your facts straight.
It's got a tunnel, Paul.
It has a tunnel. There's provisions in this ordinance to address the tunnel. There are no culverts. There are no trestles. Now, next. Lot to go over. You're right, blood pressure. You know, Tracy asked the question to Dr. Joe. You know, without a doubt, will this have any effect on lowering base flood elevations? Dr. Joe can't answer that question. What Dr. Joe can say, without putting these things in there, you have no chance of lowering base flood elevations. Zero. And Dr. Joe also stated that, you know, the railroad doesn't know of the railroad being the sole source of protection. That's what it is right now. When FEMA, we're in an X zone, and we're in an X zone only because of that railroad track. Everything on the north side of that railroad track is in a flood zone. Everything on the south side is in an X zone, because FEMA, not once, twice on their maps, said that is your flood protection. Now, the flood protection north of the track, the base flood elevation, it's 4. We've already had water to the other side of 4. So are we afraid that that railroad track is going to fail? Absolutely not. Dr. Joe Saheda, in his modeling, he's going to recognize that as a flood measure that's going to have some effect on flooding. Yeah, it's not a levee, and you can't consider it a levee, but you can't consider it a flood, a tidal surge reduction, and that's what FEMA's going to. They've done it twice, and that's what we need to fight for them doing again. Other than if somebody keeps claiming that we got trestles and pipes under, then you can throw it out the window, but we don't have that. And that's why I'm asking Sam to get his facts straight when he's presenting that out to people. You know, they said a minute ago, permits take 2 years. Well, that's a bunch of crap. I work on permits all the time. It don't take 2 years. But if it does take 2 years, let's approve this ordinance tonight and start working. You got 2 years to get permits. Start working. Next, once again, this isn't about flood protection. It's about saving homes, and that's what you heard these people saying here tonight. The district doesn't want any more flood protection. We can hold it out there as long as the parish puts up the HESCO baskets and wastes $75,000 a year every year. I got my flood protection. I don't need it. I don't have mine. These people want to save their homes. They want to be able to afford some affordable flood insurance until the time that this levee can be completed. You know, is the hump in Highway 90 approved by the Highway Department? Absolutely. That's the information I sent y'all tonight. The state worked up the numbers. Mike said that they worked it up. They hijacked the state's numbers because the state worked up that number, not BKI. But it's $600,000 for the hump. And in that estimate that I put up there, Sam said, well, yeah, we got other costs about raising up Early Street and doing this other stuff. That's why I added an extra $400,000 into it. That will surely cover everything in that particular location, not just the hump in Highway 90. As far as permits, you don't need no permits. There's no wetland issues there. You got parish right-of-way there. There's nothing you need to do. You don't need a single permit other than whatever you got to do for Highway 90 if you got to get a permit from the Highway Department. So $1 million there, absolutely, no question, doable. You know, right now we need to build to what we know. And what we know right now is what's on those maps. Anything that Dr. Joe can do in helping benefit in lowering the base flood elevations on the outside of that district is land yap. So what we need to do right now is proceed based upon knowing what we got, which is these elevation 7s, and forget about we know we want 12 somewhere down the road. Once again, we're sitting there on a project that we hope may come around, and if it does, thank God. But right now we need to act as though it's not coming around, and that we have no help, and that we need to do whatever we can to buy these people time so that they can save not lose their homes. That's the whole objective here. Next point. Going back to these figures and these information that they have here.
Paul, excuse me 1 second. I'm going to ask that the audience refrain from talking when someone else is talking, or I'm going to have to ask the deputy to take care of it because it's disrespectful.
Next, bulkhead in Bayou Des Allemands. What's in that estimate is the number for the exact same flood wall that they're building on the other side. Now, Mike said, you know, that they added an extra foot on top of it. We may need that extra foot, but Dr. Joe Saheda is going to be the one that tells us what we need on all of these projects to meet the requirements that we had that's of what's on those maps right now. So it may be an extra foot taller. It may not. 6 foot might be good. Is there wave action in Bayou Des Allemands? Not a whole lot. There's wave action in Mud Lake, though, for sure. So we know we got to address wave action there. Getting back to real estate. There's no real estate to acquire. You're going to stick this sheet pile up in the bayou. That's permits you need to get. You need to get a permit from the state, the Section 10 permit. You need to get the scenic water river thing waived so that you can do this protection. I've already talked to those people. They're ready to go. It's no problem. It's a matter of just going through the process. They've already stated that this is good. And when I contacted these people that need to give you the authority to do that, it takes a little time, but it don't take years. I can guarantee you that. Next, railroad, tying into the railroad track. Once again, there's ways to provide this protection without touching that railroad track, without getting on there right away. One of them though is you have to pass under that railroad track on one of the options. And you need to pass under that railroad track if you look at our contract that we did with BKI, it specifically lists two projects: flood tidal surge protection north and tidal surge protection south. To get that tidal surge protection to the south, you need to tie north and south together. So one of the options is running under that railroad track with a wall for your future phase to tie in the flood protection on the north side. But we don't have to do that right now if we don't want to in order to seal off the Sunset Drainage District. That's another route. And it actually lowers the price of this wall. Once again, this wall price was based upon the price per square foot that Lafourche Parish just awarded a contract on the other side of the bayou. This number is based directly upon that. With the assistance, I got that number from BKI's, one of his employees who helped look up what that number was and give me an estimate on that. So it's somewhere in that ballpark. I'm not going to say $7.5 million is exactly right, but it's in the neighborhood. They just built a job. And if you look at that particular project, there's things over there that they have to account for, which raises up the prices, like pipes, drain pipes going through the wall, a lot of utility related stuff that we don't have on our side. They have a lot more structures on that side that they have to deal with. We don't have that many on our side. So there's a lot of things that is making their costs go up. That's not going to be the same cost that we're going to have on our side. Going to the Badeaux Lane East Street. Once again, Dr. Joe Saheda is going to tell us what we need in terms of height. In terms of height at that particular location, and he can tell us that right now, based upon, what the FEMA maps are right now. Not having him come up and do his magic to get base flood elevations. Just tell us with what we got right now, what do we need to put right there in order to have no water flowing into this district as a weir. Right now, you don't put a closure in there. You don't put the bulkhead along the Zalmans. You got weirs. A 3,000-foot weir where water's just strictly pouring into the district in the Zalmans. You got a 1,000-foot weir where it's pouring in Badeaux Lane, and you got a 1,000-foot weir where it's pouring in at Parity. If you don't close in those gaps, you got zero chance of flood protection. So once again, what do we need here at Badeaux Lane? Base flood elevation in that particular area is 7. Then you start talking into the wave action and stuff like that. Well, this area, will it have wave action? I don't know. I don't think so. There's a lot of trees directly in front of it. So what is that height? The numbers that I have here are based upon the flood wall being at a height of 9. There are certain requirements with flood walls where you can use just a single sheet pile wall in order to make a certifiable flood wall, provided that you don't have no more than 4 foot of sticking up on the protected side and no more than 6 feet down on the flood side. So in this particular location, a single pile sheet pile wall with the situation that we have here should be adequate. And then of course the floodgate across the street. Once again, just rough ballpark numbers, went to BKI, and I had BKI calculate just ballpark figures on what it would cost right there. And that's the numbers that I have presented tonight. The $18.5 million, I would assure you, has got to be an inverted T-pile wall with battered piles, cut off sheet pile below, and a big wall sitting on the top of it. That is not what I'm talking about putting here. We're talking about putting something that is much less than that. For example, BKI worked us up a number to build a certifiable flood wall bulkhead in the Zalmans. That was $27 million to go 3,000 feet. We're not going to spend $27 million. Right now, the objective isn't building something certifiable, although in this case we probably would want to. The objective here is lowering base flood elevations in order to have people to be able to save their homes. Backflow of the Sunset Drainage District. Yeah, if you get to water elevations of 12, you're going to have some issues. We're not talking about that point right now. Backflow issues is going to come into play when that project that's going to run all the way from Davis Pond to Bayou Lafourche at an elevation 12. You got some serious backflow problems. To this elevation here, you don't. Humping Highway 90. We talked about that one a little bit. $600,000, as I said, that came from the state. State told us exactly what that was. We have put an extra $400,000 on top of that, and talked about homes in the along the route, and that you go down there, they got some sheds, they got some stuff, and those people will be getting off that right of way. Sunset Drainage District has a right of way for there. Those people that's on the right of way will move. Will be moved. Have all of their items taken off. Going to the raising of the Sunset Drainage District Levee. The Sunset Drainage District Levee, as I stated earlier, is about 13 miles of levee. The majority of that levee, with the exception of a few spots, is already at base flood elevation heights. The spots that are not at base flood elevation, most of it is this much. Very rarely do you have a spot that is less than a foot. So we're not talking about going out there and raising this thing up 2 feet and expanding the footprint. We're talking to get it up to base flood elevation. We're talking about a minimal raising of the cap on the top of that levee, not 2 feet. But then once again you get back to the question of, well, maybe we have some wave run-up issues out there on Mud Lake. Maybe we do. Dr. Joe Saheda once again is going to tell us that levee may need to go up 2 feet. If it does, Lafourche Basin Levee District has $5.5 million sitting in the bank. That parish president, all he has to do tomorrow is say, Lafourche Basin Levee District, go raise that levee up about 2 feet. Whatever it takes. It's a done deal. That's not money coming out of a West Bank Hurricane Protection Fund. It's money that's sitting there. So if it has to go up 2 feet along there, parish president, all he's got to do is say, do it, and it's a done deal. Raising the levee. I work for a contractor. That's what we do. Levees is what we do for a living. I went to my estimators and I told them, here's a certain reach of our levee. This is what we need. This is how many cubic yards we need. If you got to go buy that dirt at one of those dirt pits up there on 3127, if you got to go buy it, how much will it cost for you to do this particular reach of the levee? And the cost is about $156,000 to go raise that levee by this much for that particular reach. And by the time you proportion it out for the whole levee, you're talking $400,000 max to get this levee up to base flood elevation. Now, if it's got to go up higher than that, like I stated, even if you want to raise the whole levee around there by 2 feet, that $5.5 million will come pretty close to raising that whole levee up 2 feet if the parish president just signs that letter and says, go do it. It's just a choice. With that, I think I've said about enough. Once again, y'all done heard what the people had to say. This is a very critical and important issue to the citizens. Yeah, the numbers may not be exact, but for what I've been told and what I put out there, these numbers are pretty close to what we need to get closure so as to affect the base flood elevations. As I stated, it's not certified. To meet core requirements. When the guidance comes out, the guidance will tell you how to analyze non-certifiable, non-accredited levee structures, and that's where we're heading with this. Before I'm gonna have one more chance to speak, I'm gonna stop for now, and I'll take my second opportunity when y'all finish.
I'm just going to apologize. I didn't mean that last comment to sound harsh. I know you're all frustrated and want to see something happen, and I feel your frustration, but we just need to keep it moving along. The comments would help, and I appreciate you listening. Paul, I have one question, and I'm behind this. I want to see something done, but when we get people coming out as like Klein, Peter, and all them, Bert Klein, Peter, and you, and we've got conflicting stories, it makes me hesitant to come to a simple answer, which we all want to be yes. Is there a way to, I hate to say defer, or even put one thing ahead of the other and we can work at this one step at a time instead of a big bulk of 10 million? I would love to see you do what you feel would make the most impact let's get that done, and then come and let's do one by one, so we're not taking all the money out and putting it, and then finding out that in order to complete it now, we need more money. And that's what scares me, that that number is so far off because of what we've gotten, that we're gonna say yes to 10, and we're not gonna be able to finish it. So I'm asking you, is there a way that this can be broken down to a smaller version, and project by project, as we can do them, let's do them?
I hear what you're saying, and I have no objection to going back and sitting with the administration, sitting with BKI, and sitting with Dr. Joe Saheda, and letting them tell us exactly what we need, and correlate that to what's in these proposed ordinances, this ordinance here tonight. With this being such a major issue and of major importance to these people that came out here and put their hearts out on this, this is something that is critical. It's something that we need to put in action. It's something that needs to happen. Whatever it takes to make it happen, I'm willing to do whatever we need to as a council in order to make it happen. And if it is taking baby steps, I'm all for baby steps. I need every vote that we can have tonight. Unfortunately, Councilman Snooki Fauché, who's said that he's in support of this, isn't here tonight, and I'm not sure how this council is going to vote. I need every vote that I can have on this council in order to do this. So, with that, we've heard what the people had to say. I've heard what y'all had to say. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we table this ordinance here tonight, so that we can have an opportunity to have Snooki up in here to vote, so that I can have time to go meet with Sam and talk to Dr. Joe, and that we get a little better grip on this, so that when we take it up at the next council meeting, y'all all be better informed before y'all make y'all vote.
We have my mic wasn't on before, I'm sorry. We have a motion to table it, correct?
Table,
By
correct.
Mr. Hogan, and a second by Ms. Scheck-Snyder. Please cast your votes. We have one pending. Got it. That passes unanimously. So 2013-0208 will be deferred and hopefully tabled, I'm sorry. Got deferred on the brain. Ms. Perrier, you asked to speak. Did you still want to?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted Mr. Hogan to know the fact that I had any question about this ordinance did not mean that I did not support this ordinance. I know you appreciate dotting I's and crossing T's, and you don't vote for anything that doesn't make sense wholly to you. So I'm glad that we've done this so we can get a little more clarification before we allocate $10 million. Thank you.